Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grey Market Blast. A happy synthetic Friday to all of those Yanks out there, which is the vast majority of you.
Yanks. That's offensive.
Yanks. You join me and the glamorous with a capital G, Angie Setzer, where she will be providing us a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, and so I don't get a spanking, I'll get the legals out of the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed the magnificent, the wonderful, the glamorous Angie Setzer.
Woohoo! Angie just had to
Woohoo!
put in 1 second.
Oh, hello.
Sorry. I'm good. I had a little tickle in my throat, so I had to put my emotional support butterscotch disc in my mouth for a second. Like I have one that just is kind of perched on my desk for reasons such as these. Now you know I'm a disgusting human. Anyway. Happy
Never.
Friday to me. After I've done with this little show here, I'm bouncing. Not really, cause if the markets rally, I welcome phone calls because everyone's gonna be happier than what they were a week ago. But yeah, happy synthetic Friday, to those of you who have the 4th of July tomorrow. I am told all of my customers that I've talked to so far today, have a super awesome 4th, but make good decisions. And so I'm going to tell you all of that before we get to the end. Ask yourself, what would Angie do? And if it isn't, be home and asleep by 8 p.m. It's probably not a good decision. So that's what I'm doing. But anywho, welcome to the Thunderdome. Big day yesterday. I don't know, you didn't probably see it, but, we rallied pretty hard. The market took off. Let me see, closing wise, we added double digits to corn. Wheat also performed really well. Soybeans up 20 plus, and a lot of good things. Now, a lot of folks had said, oh, it's the Vietnam. So you'd seen President Trump come out, I think right after we had done this show, and say that we had had a Vietnam trade deal put in place. That deal is what, it drops their, tariffs down unless they're being transshipped. So it helps to kind of close that little loophole, they were really worried about before with China or anyone else kind of using, Vietnam to go around the tariffs. So there is a little bit of a punishment in there, which some folks are like, ooh, China might be mad about that. But I think their tariff rate, once you remove the fentanyl rate, China's rate's actually lower than Vietnam's because it's 20%. Yeah. So, what are we talking about here? So, that was one thing that was positive. There was a lot of talk of, oh, this is what's really supporting the market, yada, yada, yada. But we had been told that, Vietnam coming in and buying $3 billion of ag products, was part of the deal all along. Now, the question is it $3 billion additional? Because right now last year they bought $3.4 billion already. So is this really a market mover? Not really, and that's why it didn't move the market on June 3rd when it was first initially kind of thrown out there. I think what's really kind of driving the market here is there started to be rumors aplenty that China is coming into the market, that there's a trade deal. So first off, we'll start with the big rumor, showy rumor, let's have glitter and fireworks everywhere. And that is that Trump tonight is going to be in Iowa and in Des Moines where the buttercloud lays her beautiful yellow head, the first week of August. I think it's the first week. But anyway, he's going to Des Moines with Secretary Rollins and they have a big announcement. It's not going to be about Vietnam. It's not about that. But the question is it China? And so right now, and it's funny, I actually just went back to listen to yesterday's show because in the last 5 minutes of the show yesterday, I said, watch out for China economics and, market movements and all of these things are really pointing that they're going to come in or could come into the market and start purchasing. Economics alone drive it. Economics plus goodwill, could be a good thing because you did see the U.S. basically announce that they were releasing is it ethane or ethane? How do I say that?
I say ethane.
All right, I'll go with that. I don't care. Everyone will be like, she's not British.
This is it. It's called English for a reason, right?
I can, exactly. And I can hijack that and sound terrible, but I would be offensive. Ethane. So I won't, so ethane, ethane, whatever. They announced that on Wednesday they were going to open that. The U.S. was. So that means that China's met their first step, right? China's done what they needed to do with the rare earth metals to be able to have the ethane, ethane trade back open. And so it sounds like secondarily we may see, grain purchases, which for China, It works out perfectly. Oh, I'm making you happy by making these trades that are economically smart. Cool. I guess I
Right.
will.
Win-win.
That happened in 2020. We hit lows across the grain market. Like we hit cash price lows that we had not seen that were historically, significant. We saw demand come in a big way that we weren't really anticipating. And it's just kind of something that we could be seeing here. You did see JP Morgan come out at the beginning of the week and be like, yeah, we probably have big crops, but we're going to need every last bushel of them because demand is surging. I've seen too many old dudes in this industry right now talking about stagnant demand. Like, I don't know if we've just stopped paying attention to what's going on around the world or what, but demand is far from stagnant in agricultural commodities. And so I think that's part of what drove it yesterday. We'll see if we get into Iowa tonight and it's an announcement about, I don't know, it could be something that could completely fall flat, but I doubt it. So we'll see what the announcement is and kind of go from there. But that's our biggest thing right now. Rumors. Obviously the Vietnam trade deal is the first of many, they say. So we'll see. India does look like they'll open their markets up to some processed, genetically modified U.S. farm products. So I'm guessing maybe soybean meal. Looks like, DDGs is one of the things that they're talking about. You'll probably see maybe some increase in ethanol, though it can't be used on the road, whatever. And so we'll see, what that means. That's India and the U.S. We had thought they'd have an announcement by now. So we'll see what that looks like. Japan's coming back into DC for their 8th visit. And they keep insisting that it's going so well. He must just have his room already picked out or whatever, but, they'll be back tomorrow for that. A lot of folks are like, hey, we're not going to sacrifice our agricultural sector, for your, demands or whatever, like help us with our auto sector. So we'll see how that comes about. Trump had said the other day that Japan could have a 30 to 35% tariff rate. Japan really was kind of like, all right, bet, I guess at this point. We'll be watching to see what the EU does, all these other things. They did say next week will be a big week and we are 6 days away, from the deadline. So that'll be one of the biggest things we'll be paying attention to. Also need to be paying attention to what's going on in Europe and the Black Sea. We kind of have this sort of, and I think you might be able to start talking about this in Brazil as harvest picks up potentially here as well. But we kind of have this sort of habit and grains of, potentially trying to kill a crop too early, and then we resuscitate it, and then we make it really big, or maybe make it too big, and then we get into, actually harvesting it, and our expectations come back down to earth. And that's what we're hearing right now in Europe. And I would say that that's one of the things that's kind of surprised me over the last 3 weeks is even though you've seen all of this talk of exceptional heat across France, Germany, everywhere, it's been hot as hell. For you guys in a lot of spots over that way. No one's really said anything about how that could impact wheat as it's finishing. Like that final little stretch of wheat can really be where you make or break that extra 10, 15, bushels of production. And so if you get 100-degree temperatures and dry as you're working to finish that crop, you're going to end up with a lot of blank, maybe not completely blank heads, but it's going to be a lot less than what you were anticipating. And that's what we're starting to hear more of. Disappointing yield results out of Russia, not to mention we're seeing some real issues with logistics. Like I think they've had to lower their export tax, not because they have so much wheat, but because they can't get the ship moved. Like there's so much cost associated with logistics now that they have to really kind of lower the cost that the exporters are paying to get the grain out of the interior to the exterior. And so there's a factor there that we have to be paying attention to. Ukraine's harvest is said to be smaller than what was anticipated. Europe, like I said, they're getting in, to wheat in France and struggling with some issues. There's some protein things that we're hearing about. And so just hold on to your ass. There's a lot that's going on in the cash market right now, that could be really explosive in this whole entire market structure. The biggest of which being we're cheap. One of the things that I've argued about for a really long time when it comes to U.S. commodities, even when our dollar was exceptionally high and we were more expensive than the rest of the world, is that we provided the best logistics and the best quality in the world. If you need it, you can ask for it the next day and it'll be whatever you want it to be. And now we're doing that at a discount. Like with the dollar as low as what it is, with these other farmers, seeing domestic demand grow in their countries and prices be so low. There's just some really interesting things, some interesting dynamics. We saw it in this morning's export sales. And so, yeah, we'll be watching, closely to see what Trump has to say. But overall, I think just be prepared. We also have the inflation conversation coming into play. Trump saying interest rates should be 1%. We had really good jobs number. You know what I mean? Like there are so many things happening right now. And a lot of them, honestly, I think should Trump weather to a certain extent, simply because, like I was saying before, JP Morgan, their analyst has a great point. The demand that we have in this market, basically will soak up most all of what we're producing. And we do need to set aside some reserves here. And so they'd said negative risk premium 3 or 4 times the other day. And so that's what I paid attention to. And, yeah, that's it. Happy 4th of July. Let's go party. Yeah.
Done. Perfect. Look at
So,
that. Okay. Awesome. Well,
right? You're
Angie,
just like, okay.
yeah, I don't,
I guess with that.
for some reason I was thinking we're getting far too efficient at these. I was like, for some reason I thought there was more, but this is perfect. I
Yeah.
know you're itching away to get off and celebrate, as you said
So
yesterday. This is now you
yeah.
done until Monday.
This is me done until Monday for the most part. I just told a couple of my customers, I'm like, you'll get an email in the morning because we're going to have to see what the announcement is. That's the biggest thing at this point.
No, exactly.
We got a big chunk of export flash sales announced this morning. And like I said, there's a lot of talk that demand is probably overstated, for new crop. And it's the same people that said demand was overstated for old crop all along. And they're still working to argue that. And we're currently,
they're clearly married to that position, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we don't marry positions.
No.
Like that's,
exactly that.
Or AI, I guess. I read a real weird article that triggered that thought.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's kind of firm opinions held loosely or something like that, which is how we got to be. You got to be ready to admit when you're wrong, basically.
That's just it. That's what I'm generally.
Strong opinions held loosely. That's it. Strong opinions held loosely.
There you go. Yes, exactly. That's where we need to be, just kind of watching and seeing. But right now, cash is king. I said this in 2020, like Scarlett O'Hara wise, because I missed the 2020 market shift. Like, and I'll say that all day and every day. Like when we went from 3 billion bushel of corn carryout projected in the beginning to 1.2 billion, like I was left behind when that train took off from the station. And I realized, where did I go wrong in my analysis?
Right.
And it was, I wasn't paying attention to cash markets around the world and grain flow. And so right now it's the only thing. How easy is it to purchase bushels if you're an end user? How badly do you need them? And how quickly can you get them if you do need them badly? And right now the US is really the only game in town until about September of consequence, at least.
Yeah.
For corn. So yeah, that's about it. We'll see what happens. Yeehaw, giddy up, keep all your fingers over the weekend. That's the only goal. You have one job.
Yeah.
For everyone here.
Don't die.
Yeah, just be safe.
But, so for exactly what Angie just said. So from your friend across the pond, I wish you all a magnificent 4th of July weekend. As Angie says, stay safe, whatever you're doing, keep it tight, and we'll see you on Monday. Much love.
Have a good one, guys.